This story is titled, My Stepdaughter Asked Me for $7,000, and when I said no, she accused me of SA, and my wife believed her without any proof and tried to ruin my life. Alright, so here's the deal. I'm Jack, 46 male, and life was finally starting to look up after a rough few years. My first marriage ended about 10 years ago. Rachel and I had been together for 12 years, but honestly, we were better as friends than as husband and wife. We married too young, had no clue what we wanted out of life, and eventually realized we were just coexisting. No big fights, no drama, just a slow, mutual drift apart. My second wife, Lauren, 43 female, came into my life when I wasn't really looking for anything serious. We met at a community fundraiser for rebuilding homes after a flood swept through our town. I was helping organize volunteers, and she was running an art station for kids. Lauren had this vibrant, positive energy that was hard to ignore. She was a single mom to Emma, who was 16 at the time, and working 2 jobs just to stay afloat, teaching art classes during the day, and working at a local diner at night. Emma's dad, Mike, had checked out of the picture long ago. According to Lauren, he bailed when Emma was 2. He had one of those new family, new life situations down in Texas, and never looked back. No child support, no visits, just radio silence. I remember thinking how strong Lauren must have been to hold it all together on her own. We started dating not long after that fundraiser. Lauren and I clicked right away. We had similar interests, music, hiking, even the same cheesy old movies we'd both watched a million times. After about a year of dating, I proposed. It just felt right. When Lauren and Emma moved into my house, everything seemed perfect at first. Lauren was finally able to quit her second job at the diner, because my salary as a construction project manager was more than enough to cover the bills. Emma seemed to settle in just fine too. She even helped out with the wedding planning, picking decorations and talking about how excited she was to have a real family again. My house isn't fancy, but it's mine. I bought it in my 30s after years of saving and some smart investments. It's got 3 bedrooms, a decent yard, and it's in a good neighborhood. I figured it'd be a great place for all of us to start this new chapter together. Lauren was less stressed without having to work 2 jobs, and she finally had time to focus on her art again. We had family dinners, movie nights. It felt like I was finally building the kind of life I'd always wanted. But looking back, I think I ignored a lot of red flags. Emma was always a little high maintenance. At first, it was small stuff. She'd ask for extra money for school supplies, then come home with some overpriced backpack that looked more like a fashion statement than anything functional. Or she'd insist she needed a new outfit for an event at school and show up with a designer label. Lauren always brushed it off, saying, she's been through a lot without her dad. Another red flag I missed was how Lauren handled money. When we first met, she was drowning in debt from trying to give Emma everything she asked for. Lauren carried this massive guilt about being a single mom, and it showed in how she parented. Emma wanted the latest iPhone? Lauren found a way to make it happen, even if it meant putting off bills. Emma wanted expensive makeup? Lauren picked up extra shifts to pay for it. I thought I could help them break out of that cycle. I helped Lauren budget, got her debt under control, and even started setting aside money for Emma's college fund. But the more I said no to Emma, the more Lauren caved. I didn't realize it at the time, but Emma had her mom wrapped around her finger. It wasn't all bad in the beginning, though. There were moments when I genuinely felt like we were a family, but those moments didn't last. Emma's entitled behavior kept creeping in, and Lauren's tendency to make excuses for her only made things worse. Still, I thought we could handle it. I was convinced that with enough patience and understanding, we could work through anything. Looking back now, I can see how naive I was. I didn't realize it at the time, but Emma wasn't just a spoiled teenager. She was a master manipulator. And as much as I wanted to believe Lauren had my back, the truth was, she'd always put Emma first, no matter what. But I didn't know any of that yet. At that point, I was just a guy trying to build a life with the woman he loved, completely unaware of the storm that was about to hit. Alright, so by now you know the honeymoon phase didn't last long. I thought Emma was just adjusting to the new family dynamic, but man, I couldn't have been more wrong. Emma's true colors started shining through. And let me tell you, they weren't pretty. The first big issue came about 2 months after they moved in. Emma announced that she needed to redecorate her bedroom. Now, mind you, her room was already furnished and perfectly fine. Queen-sized bed, a desk, a wardrobe, the whole setup. But apparently it wasn't aesthetic enough for her new vision. She came to me and Lauren with a list of demands. A new bed frame, designer wallpaper, and some LED lights she'd seen on TikTok. The total? Close to $2,000. Lauren was hesitant at first, but Emma worked her magic, pulling out the crocodile tears and the whole, "you don't care about my happiness" route. I tried to stand firm, saying she could redecorate if she saved up and contributed herself. But Lauren eventually gave in, as she always did. "It's just her room, Jack. It's her space, she said, as if that justified spending a couple grand on a vanity project. Emma barely lifted a finger to help with the redecorating. She acted like she was the foreman, barking orders at me while I painted her walls and assembled her new furniture. And once it was all done, she barely even used the space. Within weeks, she was already talking about wanting to switch it up again. Then there was the whole study abroad debacle. Out of nowhere, Emma came home one day, announcing that her school was offering a summer program in Paris, and she absolutely had to go. She didn't even ask. She just assumed we'd foot the bill. When I looked up the costs, my jaw hit the floor. Between tuition, airfare, and living expenses, it came out to over $10,000. I said no immediately. I mean, come on, we're not made of money. And it's not like Emma was some straight-A student who was crushing it academically. But Lauren? She started making excuses for her again. She's young, Jack. This could be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Emma, of course, took that as her cue to guilt-trip us further. If Dad were around, he'd let me go, she said, which was rich coming from someone whose dad hadn't even sent her a birthday card in years. When I didn't budge, Emma retaliated by giving us the silent treatment for weeks. She'd come home from school, slam her door, and refuse to speak to either of us. It was like living with a moody dictator. Lauren was upset the whole time, bending over backward to keep the peace, while I just tried to ignore it. Then there was the car situation. Emma got her first car, a used but reliable little sedan, for her 17th birthday. I thought it was more than generous, especially since I helped pay for half of it. But within 6 months, she'd totaled it. She ran a stop sign, and the car was beyond saving. Instead of being grateful she wasn't hurt, Emma started dropping hints about wanting a cooler car next time. Lauren actually considered it, but I put my foot down. I remember Rachel giving me a heads up about this sort of thing. We talked on the phone every couple of months, and she'd always ask how things were going with Lauren and Emma. When I mentioned the car incident, she told me, "Just be careful, Jack. Kids like that don't grow out of entitlement overnight." At the time, I brushed it off. I thought Rachel was just being protective of me, but man, I wish I'd listened. And let's not forget about the dog. Emma decided she wanted a dog, specifically a purebred golden retriever puppy she found online for $3,500. Now, I love dogs, but we both work full-time. And Emma wasn't exactly known for her responsibility. I told her no. Lauren told her no. But Emma wasn't having it. She started showing us videos of sad shelter dogs and making these overdramatic speeches about how she'd be the perfect dog mom. Next thing I know, Lauren and I are coming home from work one day to find a puppy running around the house. Emma had somehow convinced her friend's mom to front the money, with the promise that she'd pay it back soon. Lauren was furious at first, but Emma turned on the waterworks and got her to cave. "We'll figure it out," Lauren said. I ended up footing the bill for everything. The dog's food, vet visits, training classes, while Emma barely even walked it. Then there was the modeling phase. Emma decided she wanted to be a model and convinced Lauren to hire a photographer for a professional portfolio shoot. This wasn't some budget-friendly local photographer either. No, Emma wanted the best of the best, someone with an impressive Instagram following, of course. That alone cost over $1,500. The photo shoot was a disaster. Emma complained the entire time about the lighting, the angles, the outfits. By the end, she was sulking because she didn't look perfect in the raw photos. Lauren tried to cheer her up, saying the pictures would look better after editing, but Emma wasn't having it. She demanded we book a second shoot to redo everything. I shut that idea down immediately, which of course made me the villain yet again. What really got under my skin, though, was how Emma treated Lauren. She didn't just manipulate her, she disrespected her constantly. She'd roll her eyes whenever Lauren asked her to help out around the house and act like basic chores were beneath her. One time, Lauren asked her to load the dishwasher, and Emma actually said, "Why don't you do it? You're better at stuff like that." Lauren just laughed it off, but I could tell it stung. And don't even get me started on the emergencies. Every few weeks, Emma would come to us with some new crisis that required immediate financial intervention. Her laptop broke, her phone screen cracked, her car needed new tires. It was always something. And every single time, Lauren would dip into our savings to bail her out. At one point, I tried to set up a system where Emma would have to pay us back for these so-called emergencies, but that idea went nowhere. Lauren was too soft, and Emma knew exactly how to exploit that. I started feeling like I was living with a con artist. Emma wasn't just entitled, she was calculating. She knew exactly how to play Lauren against me, and always found a way to get what she wanted. By the time Emma turned 20, it was clear that she had no intention of growing up. She dropped out of community college after one semester, claiming it wasn't for her. She refused to get a part-time job, saying it would damage her personal brand. And yet she constantly complained about how unfair it was that her friends got to travel and buy expensive stuff while she was stuck at home. I tried to talk to Lauren about it, really talk, but she always had an excuse for Emma's behavior. She's just finding herself, or she'll grow out of it. But deep down, I think Lauren knew Emma wasn't going to change. She just didn't know how to handle it. At this point, I was starting to lose my patience. I loved Lauren, but Emma was making life unbearable. I felt like I was living in a house where I was constantly outnumbered, constantly the bad guy. And the worst part? I hadn't even seen the full extent of what Emma was capable of yet. It all started one Sunday afternoon. I was in my office catching up on some work when Emma knocked on the door. That alone was unusual. She normally just barged in. She walked in, holding her phone like it was some kind of trophy, and started telling me about this amazing opportunity she had. "So, I've been doing research," she said, like she was presenting a college thesis. "I want to start my own skincare line. Everyone's getting into clean beauty right now, and I already have the perfect name and logo. I just need the startup money to get it off the ground." I leaned back in my chair, already skeptical. "What kind of money are we talking about?" She grinned like she'd just won the lottery. "It's only $7,000. That'll cover product samples, packaging, and my website. I already talked to a supplier, and they're ready to work with me as soon as I send the payment." I stared at her, waiting for more. A business plan? A timeline? Market research? Something to show she'd put actual thought into this. But no, she just stood there, clearly expecting me to say yes on the spot. "Do you have any of this written down? Like a plan or projections?" I asked. Emma rolled her eyes. "Jack, it's not that complicated. It's skincare. Everyone buys it. I've seen people blow up overnight just by posting on TikTok. I already have the vision. I just need the funds." I sighed. "Emma, $7,000 isn't pocket change. Starting a business takes more than an idea and a TikTok account. Have you even considered how much time and effort this will take?" Her face immediately turned sour. "Why do you always have to make things so hard? You just don't believe in me. If I were your real daughter, you'd be supportive." Here we go again, the guilt trip. She knew exactly how to push buttons, but I wasn't budging. "Emma, it's not about not believing in you. It's about being realistic. Starting a business is a huge commitment, and you don't have the experience or a plan to back this up. I'm not going to hand over $7,000 just because you have a vision." She stormed out, muttering something under her breath about how I was a dream crusher. I thought that was the end of it. I should have known better. Later that night, Lauren came to me looking uneasy. "Emma told me about her business idea," she started, sitting down next to me on the couch. "I think it's a good thing that she's passionate about something." I put my head in my hands. "Lauren, she's not passionate about anything except spending other people's money. She has no plan, no experience, nothing. It's just another one of her whims." Lauren bit her lip, like she was trying to find the right words. "I know it seems that way, but maybe this could be a turning point for her. Maybe if we give her the resources, she'll finally take responsibility for something. She's 20 years old," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. "She dropped out of school, refuses to work, and spends half her day scrolling Instagram. What about this makes you think she's ready to run a business?" Lauren didn't have an answer. She just sighed and said, "I'll talk to her." The next morning, I overheard them arguing in the kitchen. Emma was furious. "Why do you always take his side?" she snapped. "It's like you don't even care about my future." "I do care," Lauren said, trying to stay calm. "But $7,000 is a lot of money, and you don't have anything to show for this idea yet. Maybe you could start smaller, like working part-time to save up." "Oh, so now I'm not good enough to follow my dreams because I don't have a job?" Emma interrupted. "Do you even hear yourself? You're supposed to be my mom, but you treat me like some loser." I walked into the room, not wanting Lauren to take all the heat. "Emma, no one's saying you can't have dreams. We're saying you need to be realistic and work for them like everyone else." She glared at me like I'd just insulted her entire existence. "You're the reason she won't support me. You've been against me since day one." With that, she stormed out of the house, slamming the door so hard it rattled the windows. The tension hung in the air for the rest of the week. Emma barely spoke to either of us, slinking around the house like a ghost. Lauren was caught in the middle, clearly torn between wanting to stand by me and not wanting to upset Emma. But things took a turn I didn't see coming. One evening, Lauren came into the living room with this look on her face I'll never forget. "We need to talk," she said, sitting down across from me. "Okay," I said cautiously. "It's about Emma," she started, her voice trembling. "She told me something, and I don't even know how to process it." My stomach dropped. "What did she say?" Lauren took a deep breath. "She said you've been inappropriate with her when I'm not home." I froze. For a moment, I couldn't even comprehend the words coming out of her mouth. "What?" She said you've been making her uncomfortable, that you've been following her around the house and trying to get her alone. Lauren, that's insane, I said, my voice shaking. I've done no such thing. You know me. You know I'd never... She seemed so scared, Jack, Lauren interrupted. I didn't know what to say to her. She's lying, I said firmly. Think about it. This all started after I refused to give her the money. She's trying to manipulate you. Lauren looked torn, like she wanted to believe me but couldn't ignore what Emma had said. Why would she lie about something like this? Because she knows you'll believe her, I snapped. She's been playing us for years, and you've let her get away with it. Lauren flinched, but I didn't care. I was too angry, too hurt. The fact that she even entertained Emma's accusation was a slap in the face. I spent the rest of the night replaying the conversation in my head, trying to figure out how things had gotten to this point. Emma had crossed a line I never thought she'd cross, and Lauren's hesitation to defend me made me feel like I was standing on quicksand. The next day, I tried to show Lauren proof. Security camera footage, work schedule, anything to prove I wasn't even home during the times Emma claimed things happened, but Lauren wasn't convinced. You could have deleted footage, she said quietly. I couldn't believe it. The woman I married, the woman I trusted, was choosing to believe a lie over years of knowing who I am. Emma, meanwhile, was playing the role of the victim perfectly. She'd flinch whenever I walked into a room, cry to Lauren about how scared she was, and give me these smug, knowing looks when Lauren wasn't around. And just like that, my life started unraveling. I knew I was in for the fight of my life. I wasn't just dealing with a spoiled kid anymore. I was up against a manipulator who had no problem destroying me to get what she wanted. The first thing I did was call a lawyer. I wasn't about to wait for things to spiral further out of control. The lawyer I found was sharp, experienced, and didn't sugarcoat anything. False accusations are incredibly tricky, he said during our first meeting. The court of public opinion doesn't wait for proof. And if this escalates, it could ruin your life, even if you're innocent. We need to build an airtight case. He walked me through what I needed to do. First, gather every piece of evidence I could find. Second, document everything. Every interaction, every text message, every call. Third, and most importantly, don't confront Emma directly. He explained that people like her thrive on drama, and any emotional outburst on my part could be used against me. I started by pulling up my security camera footage. My house has cameras in the main living areas and outside, something I'd installed a few years back after a break-in in the neighborhood. I combed through hours of footage, looking for any evidence that might contradict Emma's claims. Sure enough, there were countless clips of her acting completely normal when she thought no one was watching. In one clip, she was lounging on the couch, scrolling through her phone and laughing, just minutes after supposedly having a traumatic interaction with me. I compiled all the footage and gave it to my lawyer. This is good, he said, nodding as he watched the clips. It shows she's not as afraid of you as she's claiming to be, but we're going to need more. Next, I went through my phone records. Every text, every call, every email that had anything to do with Emma went into a folder. Most of the texts were from Lauren, updating me on Emma's demands, or asking me to give in just this once. But there were a few from Emma herself, passive-aggressive messages about how it must be nice to have money and not care about anyone else. My lawyer said they were useful, but not damning enough on their own. Then I reached out to my neighbors. If anyone had noticed anything odd about Emma's behavior, I wanted to know. Mrs. Lane, who lives next door, was more than willing to help. I've been meaning to say something, Jack, she said when I knocked on her door. That girl has been throwing parties while you and Lauren are at work. I've had to call the cops twice for noise complaints. She gave me a written statement, detailing the dates and times of the incidents. Mr. Patel, who lives across the street, also came through. He has security cameras on his property, and when I asked if they'd picked up anything unusual, he sent me a few clips. One showed Emma sunbathing in the front yard when she was supposedly too terrified to leave the house. Another caught her sneaking a guy into the house through a side window late at night. But the most shocking piece of evidence came from her own Instagram account. I hadn't thought to check it before, but when I did, I found a treasure trove of contradictions. There were selfies of her smiling in her room with captions like, "Chilling at home, living my best life," posted on the same days she claimed I was harassing her. There were photos from parties, trips to the mall, and even one from a nail salon where she bragged about getting spoiled. I screenshotted everything and added it to my growing file of evidence. My lawyer suggested taking things a step further. If you're comfortable with it, we can install voice-activated recorders in the house, he said. It's legal since it's your property, and it could give us more insight into her conversations when she thinks no one's listening. I hesitated at first. It felt invasive, even though I knew I was in the right. But after everything Emma had already done, I realized I couldn't afford to hold back. So I set up recorders in the common areas, the kitchen, living room, and hallway outside Emma's room. It didn't take long to pay off. Within days, I had recordings of Emma talking to her friends about her plan. In one clip, she laughed and said, "Mom always believes me. Jack doesn't stand a chance." In another, she bragged about how she could cry on cue to make Lauren think she was terrified. But the most damning recording was a phone call with one of her friends where she admitted everything. "I made it up," she said casually. "He's being such a jerk about the money. So I had to do something. Mom will take my side no matter what." When I played that recording for my lawyer, he smiled for the first time since we started working together. "This is it," he said. "This is the kind of evidence that will hold up in court." But he warned me not to confront Emma or Lauren yet. "Let's build the strongest case possible before you make any moves," he said. "We want to be prepared for whatever they throw at you." Over the next few weeks, I kept gathering evidence. Every time Emma slipped up, I documented it. I started feeling like a detective in my own house, constantly on edge, waiting for the next piece of the puzzle to fall into place. Lauren, meanwhile, was completely oblivious to what was going on. She was still unaware of anything around Emma, doing everything she could to protect her from me. I tried to talk to her a few times, but it always ended in the same argument. "Why would she lie about something like this?" she'd say, over and over, as if repeating it enough times would make it true. I started to feel like I was living in some kind of twisted reality. Here I was, the guy who'd done everything he could to support this family, being treated like a criminal in my own home. But I knew I couldn't let my emotions get to me. The stakes were too high. My reputation, my career, my entire future depended on proving the truth, and I was determined to see it through, no matter what it took. Deep down, I knew it was only a matter of time before Emma slipped up in a way she couldn't come back from. That moment finally came one Saturday morning. Lauren had gone grocery shopping, leaving me and Emma alone in the house. I was in my office trying to get some work done when I heard footsteps coming down the hallway. My gut told me to hit record on my phone. Emma walked in without knocking. She didn't look angry or upset, just smug, like she had the upper hand. "We need to talk," she said, crossing her arms. I leaned back in my chair, keeping my expression neutral. "All right, what's on your mind?" She wasted no time getting to the point. "I'm giving you one last chance to fix this," she said. "If you give me $50,000, I'll tell Mom I made everything up. I'll even apologize, and we can move on. No one else has to know." I stared at her, trying to keep my face blank while my mind raced. $50,000? She wasn't even trying to pretend this was about her business anymore. This was straight-up blackmail. "What happens if I say no?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. Emma smirked. "Then I take this public. I'll go to the police, post my story online, and contact every charity you work with. I've already written a post about how you've been grooming me since I was a teenager. It'll ruin you, Jack. Even if you're innocent, no one's going to believe you. Not over me." She sat back in the chair, looking so pleased with herself that it made my stomach turn. I wanted to yell at her, to throw her out of my house right then and there, but I knew better. I just nodded slowly, pretending to consider her demands. "That's a big ask, Emma," I said. "I need some time to think about it." She shrugged. "Fine, but don't take too long. My patience is running out." With that, she got up and walked out of the room, leaving me sitting there, stunned. I waited until I heard her door close, before stopping the recording. My hands were shaking as I played it back, listening to her lay out her entire plan in her own words. I sent the file to my lawyer immediately. He called me within minutes. "This is it," he said. "She's admitted to everything. Lying, blackmail, the works. You're in the clear now." But we weren't done yet. My lawyer suggested I confront both Emma and Lauren at the same time, with him on a video call to mediate. That way, there would be no room for manipulation or backtracking. Lauren got home later that afternoon, completely unaware of what had happened. I asked her to sit down in the living room, saying there was something important we needed to discuss. Emma came in a few minutes later. "What's this about?" Lauren asked, glancing nervously between us. "It's about the truth," I said, pulling out my phone. "Emma, I think it's time you told your mom what's really been going on." Emma's smirk faltered for a second before she quickly recovered. "What are you talking about?" she said, her voice dripping with fake innocence. I didn't answer. Instead, I connected my phone to the TV and hit play. The first recording was from the living room a few weeks ago, where Emma bragged to her friend about how stupid Lauren was for believing her. Lauren's face went pale as Emma's voice filled the room, laughing about how easy it was to manipulate her. The next clip was Emma's phone call with her friend, where she admitted to making everything up because I wouldn't give her money. Lauren started crying, covering her mouth with her hands. "Mom, he's lying! He edited this!" Emma shouted, but there was panic in her voice now. I held up my phone, showing her the time-stamped files. "These are raw recordings, Emma. Stop lying." Then I played the final recording, the one from that morning, where Emma tried to blackmail me for $50,000. The room went completely silent. Lauren looked like she was about to be sick, while Emma sat frozen, her face drained of color. When the recording ended, I turned to Lauren. "Do you believe me now?" Lauren didn't say anything at first. She just stared at Emma, tears streaming down her face. "Is this true?" she finally asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Emma jumped to her feet, desperate now. "Mom, he's twisting everything. He forced me to say those things." "Stop," Lauren said, cutting her off. "Just stop." Emma tried to argue, but Lauren shook her head, her voice rising. "I believed you. I turned against my husband because I thought you were telling the truth. And the whole time, you were lying?" Emma's mask finally slipped. She went from panicked to angry in an instant. "You always take his side," she screamed. "You're a terrible mom, and he's a control freak who deserves everything I said about him." Lauren broke down, sobbing into her hands, while Emma stormed off to her room. I called my lawyer and let him know what had happened. Within an hour, the eviction notices were printed and ready to go. Emma was the first to leave, still screaming about how we'd ruined her life. She packed a few bags and went to stay with a friend. Lauren begged me for another chance, saying she'd had no idea how far Emma would go. "I just wanted to protect her," she said through her tears. I shook my head. "You believed the worst of me without any proof, Lauren. I don't think I can come back from that." She moved out the next day, taking a few essentials and leaving the rest for the movers. I had the locks changed immediately and installed even more security measures. Emma, unsurprisingly, tried to spin the entire situation in her favor. Within days of moving out, she posted this long, dramatic story on Instagram about how she was a survivor who had been forced to leave her toxic home. She claimed I was abusive, that Lauren had betrayed her, and that she was starting fresh to heal. She even started a GoFundMe to help with legal fees. Though what legal fees she was talking about, I have no idea. The thing is, Emma's been fooling people her whole life, but this time, she underestimated how much evidence I had against her. My lawyer sent cease and desist letters to her, her friends who were sharing her posts, and even the GoFundMe platform itself. Attached to those letters were all the recordings, screenshots, and documentation we'd gathered. It didn't take long for the truth to come out. One of Emma's former friends, someone she'd apparently screwed over in the past, posted screenshots of texts where Emma bragged about making up the whole story to get money out of me. Another friend, the one from the recorded phone calls, came forward and confirmed everything. Emma's carefully curated victim persona fell apart almost overnight. Her GoFundMe was shut down, her social media accounts went private, and the few sponsorships she'd managed to land for her wannabe influencer career were pulled. Word spread quickly in our social circle, and suddenly, Emma didn't have many people left in her corner. As for Lauren, she's been lying low. She sent me a long email a few weeks after she moved out, apologizing for everything. She admitted that deep down, she'd known Emma was lying, but couldn't bring herself to face the truth because it would mean admitting she'd failed as a parent. "I wanted so badly to believe she was still my little girl," she wrote. "I let that blind me to who she's become." It was a heartfelt email, and I could tell she was genuinely remorseful, but it didn't change anything for me. There's no coming back from that kind of betrayal. I never responded. I heard through mutual friends that Lauren had moved back to her old neighborhood and picked up a job at a local art supply store. She's still teaching art classes at the community center, which I think is good for her. But from what I've been told, she's struggling financially again, juggling bills and trying to rebuild her life. And Emma? Well, karma's been working overtime on her. After her social media implosion, she packed up and moved to Reno, of all places, to live with some other wannabe influencers. They're sharing a tiny apartment, splitting bills, and from what I've heard, it's not the glamorous life she'd envisioned. She's still trying to claw her way into the spotlight. But with her reputation in shambles, no one's biting. As for me, I've been focusing on putting the pieces back together. The first thing I did was finalize the divorce. My lawyer made sure it was quick and clean. Lauren didn't have a claim to my house, and I had all the documentation showing that I'd been the one covering most of the expenses during our marriage. In the end, she didn't fight it. The second thing I did was step back from the children's charity I'd been volunteering with. That part hurt the most. I'd been with the organization for years, and it had always been a big part of my life. But with the accusations and the fallout, I didn't want to risk any bad press affecting their work. My lawyer said it was the right move, but it still stings. Looking back, I've learned a lot from this whole mess. I've learned that trust is fragile, that people can hide their true selves for a long time, and that sometimes, even the people you love the most can let you down. But I've also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. Karma may have dealt with Emma and Lauren, but it's also been kind to me in its own way.